The Inventory Analysis and Procurement feature is located underneath the Inventory Control module. Menu option Inventory Analysis and Procurement. This has two different options. We're going to cover the first option, which is the reporting part of it. And basically this allows you to analyze your inventory to see whether or not you have some products which you have too many of, or other products you have too few of, based upon prior sales. So what we need to do is first establish what is that sales period we're going to analyze. And here it comes up with a default of 1 year prior to today's date, so we'll accept that. And in part of this analysis, it calculates whether or not sales are increasing or decreasing. And that's what the acceleration calculates. And here it's going to compare the last 3 months of sales as it is compared to the last 6 months of sales. And what it basically does is it takes an average per month quantity sold for the first 3 months, and then it figures out the average per month quantity sold for 6 months. And it does a percentage increase from one over the other, so you can see how the product is moving along. You can analyze a certain product range. You don't have to do your entire inventory. And then for the report itself, you may not want to see a lot of inventory. You may want to fine-tune it to say, you know what, let me see all the items that I have at least $1,000 in a shortage or deficit, or $1,000 surplus. If you're holding a larger inventory, you may want to increase these numbers to a $5,000 or $10,000 deficit and surplus, respectively. We'll leave it at $1,000. You can also identify which warehouse you're going to be doing the analysis for, and then you're also going to indicate how many months of desired inventory do you want on hand in order to satisfy future sales. So the idea here is that if on average for the last year you've been selling 10 per month, and you want to keep 3 months of inventory on hand, then its even point is going to be 30. 3 months times the 10 means that you should have 30 on hand in order to have a 0 deficit and a 0 surplus. You may also have items that you've just created, and you may not want them to appear on this report because maybe you have not gotten them in your inventory yet, or maybe you haven't shipped them out yet. Whatever the reason be, new items will tend to cause extra information on the report that you don't want. We really want to treat this as an exception report. And along that same lines, exclude items that have never been received. You'd also want to have that checked as well. And lastly, run what? Well, this is the report. We're going to run the report. We also have the ability to run an inventory procurement, which will actually allow us to transfer or create purchase orders in order to actually increase or manage our inventory based upon this type of analysis. We'll go ahead and we'll run the report. And what it's doing now, it's calculating the average sales per month for the 3-month time period, for the 6-month time period, and for the 12-month time period that we put for the sales period, date range. And then it's also calculating what your deficits are based upon the 3 months. And it's done. So now we have 4 products listed here. And you can see it tells you how many units on hand you have, and it also tells you what you are selling average per month for that sales period. In our instance, it was a 12-month sales period. So on average, we're selling about 150 per month. This calculates that for the first item there, it'll last about 2.2 months. If you go down, you can see we have other figures here as well. Let's look at the last one. It says we have 4,169 units on hand. If we're only selling 160 per month, then we have an estimated months of 26. We really only want a desired months of 3, so you can see that is way over the mark. We can scroll over to a little bit more to the right, and you can see it actually calculates what your surplus is. Now this is a low dollar value, so the surplus is not that outstanding, but still it is way more than what we need. And if you have a lot of inventory items like that, well, clearly it's going to add up very quickly. It also shows you when the last time it was sold, which is very, very important, because it also tells you the last time it was ordered. And certainly, if the last time you sold it was 10/21 of 2001, you certainly had no business reordering it in January 31st of 2003, since you have not even sold any since 2001. So that would be an obvious flag right there. And then also tells you what your last cost was. And the acceleration that I had explained earlier, how it calculates your whether the sales are increasing or decreasing based upon the last 3 months worth of sales versus the last 6 months worth of sales. And you can close this report and you can work it a number of different ways. You can see how the surpluses and deficits change if you have 2 months of desired on-hand inventory, or 4 months and whatnot. You can also change the surpluses and your deficits to see how they affect the report. And the idea is that you want to try and first get an exception report of the largest amount of items that have a large surplus or deficit. And this concludes part 1 of the inventory analysis and procurement.